So over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the Detroit Red Wings, the Montreal Canadiens, the New York Rangers, the Islanders, the Flyers. We talked about a lot of those teams in that East mosh pit. But one of the teams that we have not talked about yet this season is the Ottawa Senators and how they might be a team that finally breaks into the playoffs this coming season after being out for nearly 8 years at this point. I think this coming year will be the 8th year in a row they've been out. But maybe they can stop that before it gets to that magic number. The Senators so far this season have been a lot better than they have been in previous years. They have a 26-20-4 record for 56 points. They are tied for third place in the Atlantic Division. They are playing some very good hockey as of late. I believe they're like 7-2-1 in their last 10. And what's funny is that Ottawa, we would know, is that they would always bottom out at the beginning of the season and they would always be terrible and their starts were atrocious. Well, this year's start wasn't as, it wasn't terrific, it wasn't great. It was still, below 500, it wasn't that good. But in December is when this team really woke up. And so far, through January, heading into February, they have been incredible. You look at their underlying numbers, honestly, you would be a little bit surprised how this team is really even at the spot that they're in. They have a goals for per game average of 2.72, which is 26th in the NHL. They aren't really scoring as much as other teams are. And that's a little bit surprising when you look at the Senators because they have a lot of offensively touted players. Their goals against is really where it's at. A 2.7 goals against average, which is ranked 6th. And a lot of that is credit to Linus Ullmark and Levi Merilainen, who we will get into both of them later on in this video. But again, the goals for number really surprised me. I'm like, wow. But again, it does make sense because they have been shut out a lot of times this season. But when they are scoring, they're winning a lot of the time. But I do think the scoring definitely needs to pick up for sure. You look at the power play and the penalty kill. Their power play is ranked 14th with a 22% success rate. 14th, not that bad. It's about average. The penalty kill is a little bit below average, 78.9, which is ranked 18th. So a little bit below average there on the penalty kill, but it's still solid numbers when you're looking in terms of this team. So I don't hate that. But overall, for this Senators team, they have been a lot of fun to watch. You look at guys like Tim Stützle, Drake Batherson, Claude Giroux, Thomas Chabot, and even the goalies in Merilainen and Ullmark have all looked incredibly entertaining this year. But let's go through all of them here today. Starting off with Tim Stützle, who is leading the team in points, 16 goals, 32 assists, 48 points. Already better than he was last season. Last year was a really down year from him. We saw him go from what was nearly a 100-point season to, I think, a 70-point year. He's at 48 this point in the season. He might scratch around that 90-point mark again. If he does go on a real heater, he might get 100. But I think he realistically probably ends up in the 80, 90-point range, which is definitely an improvement from last season because last year was definitely a down year from him for sure. Drake Batherson, who had an incredible start to the season, is still playing really well today. 14 goals, 26 assists for 40 points this year. Again, Batherson took a really big step, and we thought that if the Senators were, if they missed the playoffs and they were like in the territory of bottom 6, bottom 7th in the league again, I feel like there was a chance that we're going to move on from someone like Drake Batherson. But without Batherson playing this year and the way the Senators have been taking a step, I think it's more realistic that they likely keep both those. You keep Batherson for sure, and he's looked good this season, 100%. Brady Tkachuk has had his struggles this year, but he's had a good stretch of the season. 19 goals, 20 assists, 39 points. He did have a really rough stretch. Like he went like 8 or 9 games in recent date without scoring a point. And I will say this, I've said this a lot with players who have struggled. When the team is winning, they don't care. But when the team is losing, you really get it pointed out. Like it really gets shown in the media for sure. But I still think Tkachuk is a very good player. Players go through slumps. And I think that Tkachuk has every bit of power in him to get himself out of this and keep playing at the level that we know Tkachuk can play. I believe he is actually leading the team in goals this season. And I do want to say that they do not have a single player who was above 20 goals this season, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, again, they have a lot of guys who are scoring in the teens. Like, you have at least 5 or 6 guys who have like 15, 16, 17 goals. But, I mean, maybe sometimes that's good, having versatile players in your lineup. But I think overall, if you're the Ottawa Senators, you want somebody to really score a lot of your goals. And I feel like they are lacking somebody like that this season. Claude Giroux, I'm getting ahead of myself. Claude Giroux this season, 10 goals, 23 assists, 33 points as well this year. It's been a little bit of a down year from Giroux. I think that we're starting to see the age really impact him. And I get it. I mean, the guy is how old now? Like, he's coming on 35. He has been in the league for a very long time, so I don't blame him for starting to maybe finally decrease in his point production. And hey, I think that he fits better in a different type of role that he has been doing this season. And I think that overall, even though he is on an expiring contract, it wouldn't be surprising if he does re-sign with the Senators, unless if they fall out of the playoff race and Giroux is like, I want to go get a Stanley Cup. That's the only other way I can realistically see it. Or in my twisted mind as a Flyers fan, seeing him come back to Philadelphia is also a possibility there too. But it's probably not going to happen. Josh Norris, now getting to Norris. In his first year back, I would say, like the last couple of years have not been that great for him, dealing with injuries. This year, though, 17 goals, 10 assists, 27 points. Again, we may not see him get back to that Norris level form that he had in previous years right away, and he may never get back to that with injuries like he had. You may never get back to that, but I think for a guy like Norris, it's good to see him come back, and it's good to see him producing at least a somewhat regular rate. I can't hate that whatsoever. If you're a Senators fan, I can't hate that either. So I think that's good to see. Adam Gaudette has been a very pleasant surprise this season. He was a player who, before this year, was looked at as a bottom 6, fourth line AHLer. Or fourth line, first line AHLer. Not a fourth line player in the American. He's not that bad. He was looked at that as that kind of player, but this year with the Senators has taken a really big step, and this might be the start of Gaudette really making a name for himself and being a consistent NHLer, because he has been this year. 15 goals, 5 assists, 20 points this season. I think he has been nothing short of terrific for Ottawa and has scored a lot of their goals. Again, you look at Ottawa, they've been lacking goal scoring, and Gaudette has 15 of their goals. So really valuable player there and a really big gem that was picked up. And again, he's only getting paid like, what, $800K at the most? Like, honestly, he looks like a terrific, cost-efficient player this season. And then Shane Pinto. Pinto this year, 9 goals, 9 assists, 18 points through 42 games played. For somebody like Pinto, who did miss half the season last year, I thought he came back and looked good. It's been a relatively down year from him. He did have an injury there in between. So, again, I would like to see more from him, but I think that it might be something that comes with more time. Again, he did miss half a year last year, and he has missed some games with injury this season, so you can't really expect him to come in and, play at the level that we want him to be, but I still think he can reach that, just it might take a little bit longer than we necessarily thought. That's it for the forwards, and I could talk about guys like Ridley Gregg and Nick Cousins and all that, but I need to cut a line somewhere. Let's move into the defensemen. 4 defensemen here we're going to talk about, starting off with Jake Sanderson. This season, he has 2 goals, 25 assists for 27 points. It has been a struggle this year for Sanderson. It's been a pretty down year for him. I feel like he's gotten better as the year has progressed on, but it was not necessarily a great year from him. I think that, again, players have down seasons. I think Sanderson is a victim of that. I still think he can be a very good defenseman, but it has been a down year for him relatively. Thomas Chabot, who has actually had a pretty good season this year, in contrast to Sanderson. 3 goals, 18 assists, 21 points. He's been very good on both ends of the ice, and I think he's had a terrific year, and I don't think he's getting enough recognition. Like LeBlanc on the MVP said that he could or should get some recognition for that Team Canada slot that's opened up on the blue line. But again, I digress. I think he still had a really good season this year. Nick Jensen, who was acquired in the Jacob Chikrin trade, 3 goals, 15 assists for 18 points. He's been as good as he can get. I mean, I think that for somebody like him, you Chikrin's going the other way. He's tearing it up in Washington. I still think he's been a solid fit for the Senators, but I feel like there might be another move there coming on the blue line. Artem Zub, who has missed a lot of time this season, has only played 25 games, has 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Again, I think that Zub, with the injury, it's a little bit too early to tell, how the season overall has really gone for him, but I still think he is a good defenseman for sure. And then you move into the goalies. The goalies have been a big topic of discussion so far this season. And again, we've talked about it multiple times before that with the goalies in Ottawa, they haven't had the best stability for a long time. Like, I can name off at least 5 or 6 different goalies that have come through Ottawa and have not looked good there, but looked good in other places. Philip Gustafson, Cam Talbot, Joey Dackard, Yunez Corpusalo, they've had a lot of those guys come through, especially the last 4 or 5 years. But the guys they've got now have looked awesome. Linus Ullmark leading the way, 12, 7, and 2 with a 2.38 goals against average and a .915 save percentage in 23 games played. Ullmark has been as expected, but the injuries have been a big problem. He just hasn't been able to consistently stay as their starting goaltender, which has left the net to Anton Forsberg and Levi Merilainen. Forsberg first, 6-9-1, a 2.81 and a .894 through 18 games played this season. Forsberg has had his games. He's also had his really bad games too. It's overall been not that good of a season from him. I think that Ottawa likely moves on from him in the offseason and goes out and gets a legitimate backup, or they keep Levi Merilainen, who this season has a 7-3-1 record, a 2.19 goals against average, and a .921 save percentage through 11 games played. He has been just lights out. And honestly, I would argue he has saved Ottawa's season in a way. In a sense that Ullmark has been out for quite some time now. He hasn't played in a little bit over a month. He's getting closer to returning, but Ottawa, with the way that they've been winning games and the way that they've been, winning in January, I think a lot of it has to go to Merilainen. I'm being dead honest here. A lot of the games that Ottawa has won have been 1-goal games. They've been very close ones, and I think that Merilainen has really kept them in a lot of those games and has honestly won them a lot of those games. So we'll have to see there how Merilainen plays out for the rest of the season. But at least so far through the stretch we've seen him play, again, it's a little bit of a small sample size, only 11 games, has looked awesome for Ottawa for sure. Again, I think that with that Eastern Conference mosh pit that's going on there, it's a little bit too early to tell who exactly is going to make it from that thing that's going on there. But Ottawa is one of the teams that I would like to pick. I love how they're playing. I love this overall roster. It's about damn time they finally start winning and finally start putting a team together that can win on the ice. And I just love to see how they're playing. I've been wanting to see them have success for so long, and we've seen it develop over the course of this channel. And I think that it's been fun to watch, and hopefully maybe this year is the year they finally get back in, but we'll have to see. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on the Ottawa Senators. Again, I did not talk about every single player on the team. Again, I got to draw the line somewhere, and I think that all these players have been solid at the very least. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like the video down below. Please, if you're new, do consider subscribing to join the hockey community we are building here. But anyways, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. New Nordcast episode tomorrow. It's going to be a good one. I'll see you in the next video.